Hi everyone, Ann Maxwell here. Good morning. Would like to talk about empowering people, empowerment versus victimization, and I'd like to do it by telling you a couple of stories, some of my favorite kids and parents that I've worked with. So years ago, there was a little guy who, when I first met him, was 5 years old, and he had one of the meanest parents I'd ever met, a really mean dad, and an absolutely lovely mom. The dad was really antisocial. He had no conscience, and he was narcissistic, and he thought only of himself. And he was brutally mean, especially to this little boy. And the courts in the divorce had granted him visitation increasingly over the years. And the mom was lovely and clearly a victim of the dad's abuse. He was very abusive. And so one of the things that she and I talked about early on, she kept on talking about how awful it was that the dad treated her son the way he was treating him, and oh, woe is me, and And I said to her, I asked her a question, do you want to create him as a victim, like going forward, or would you like to empower him? Because if you continue to treat him as a victim, as somebody who can't cope, what kinds of people is he going to attract in his life, right? Like, what kinds of girlfriends is he going to get? What kinds of teachers is he going to get? What kinds of coaches is he going to get? If he presents himself out in the world as a victim, who's going to pay attention to him, right? Victimizers, people who are control freaks, perpetrators, like that kind of stuff. But what I would like to do with him is to empower him and to teach him ways to handle people like that, so he can handle mean bosses, he can handle friends who are unkind sometimes, he can certainly handle his dad, like that kind of stuff. And she really got it. She was amazing, and she said okay. And at that point everything changed. And the work that I did with them over the years, and it was intermittent because they would come in when there was stuff going on, and then when it settled down again, then they would leave and they would come back when it was usually when the dad kept on taking her back to court like every 2 years. And so, yeah. So that's one story. The really cool thing about this is that I can't remember, I think it was a couple of years ago when he was 9 or 10 or 11, and it was the most recent time that the dad had taken them back to court. And he was so articulate and so self-confident and really capable of handling his dad's meanness that he was actually able to use it in a way that the judge heard. They have these the PREs, parental evaluators, I can't remember, that are appointed by the judge to evaluate in custody cases. And what my client did was he aggravated his dad. He pushed all his dad's buttons when the evaluator was meeting with him and his siblings. And his dad acted out just like his dad always acted out. And the evaluator saw it, and in the recommendations that he made to the court, he was really clear about curbing the dad, not granting the dad more time, like that kind of stuff. And so it's like note to self, right? When you empower your kids, they get to create the kind of world that they would like to have for themselves. They get to create their lives the way they would like to have them. So that was amazing. Another kid that I worked with, also intermittently over the years, clearly on the spectrum, definitely ADD, and then also on the autism spectrum. And skinny little guy, Coke, thick glasses, and an absolutely magical, amazing athlete, like an incredible athlete. And his mom was I just adore them. I don't know, I think he's probably in high school at this point, but anyway, they came, okay, so I have many stories with this guy, but this particular story, they came in one day and he was really upset. It was after school had started, and he was a quarterback for a league football team, and it was a championship team. They had won regional awards or championships, like that kind of stuff. So it wasn't affiliated with his school. It was a league team, and he was the quarterback, right? He was an amazing kid. So I'm going to tell you a couple things in here. Like, these kids are gifted beyond all recognition. They have capacities. These labels that they're given about everything that's wrong with them, from my point of view, are actually super abilities, super capacities that they have that most people miss. And so here's an example of that. So he wore really thick glasses, and he was a short kid, and they came in because he'd been being teased and picked on by his so-called friends, like kids who used to be his friends. And they were saying to him, you shouldn't be quarterback because you're too short, right? You can't see over the line. And besides, you wear glasses. And he was really proud. He had sports goggles that were prescription, and he was really proud of them. He used to lose his regular glasses. Like, he never paid any attention to them, but the sports goggles, he hung on to those. And I said to him, wait a minute, what's the deal? I thought that your team won the championship last year. Like, what's the deal? How come they're telling you can't be quarterback? I thought you were quarterback for that team. And he goes, I was. And I said, so what are they saying about you? And he said, well, they're saying I'm so short that I can't see over the line, right? The line of kids coming at you. And I said, so what do you do? How do you do that? Like, do you just play a running game, or do you ever pass the ball? And he said, his whole body lit up, and he said, oh my God, I pass all the time. And he said, I pass to Tyler. And he said, Tyler runs, and even though I can't see him, I always know where Tyler's going to be. And when I throw the ball, Tyler always knows where I'm throwing it, and he always catches the ball, right? That's that super capacity. And athletes will talk about that, right? Ricky Williams, who used to play for the Miami Dolphins and then for the Baltimore team, used to talk about going from point A to point B and not really literally not knowing how he got there. And even after he watched it on the replay video the next day, not knowing. These kids are magical, and what they can create is something that is so different. And that's what I would like to see more of on the planet. It's why I do what I do, is to get rid of the stigmas and everything that keeps these kids labeled and victims and victimized by other people, and to give them tools and to get out the capacities that they have, these special talents, these special abilities, no matter who they are, no matter how, quote, disabled they may appear to be. So, I don't know even where to go from here. These pictures of bruises and it's really okay if you guys want to talk about having a tough day, but if you do it to create more of that or to bring on a lot of sympathy, to create yourself as a victim, my question to you is, what are you creating in that? Like, where are you going with that? Is that the kind of life that you actually want to live? Or do you know? I'm not sure you would be in this group if you didn't know or have some inkling that something else was possible, that there wasn't a different way of being with your kids, with your lives, with whatever it is that's going on. Because there is, right? And I get that it's really hard sometimes. It's hard for me sometimes. It's hard for everybody. And there are tools and there are things that you can do, attitudes you can have, approaches you can make to create something really different, right? And so here's the first tool, I guess, that I'm just going to give you, like in this video, is to ask a question. And a question is not a statement with a question mark at the end of it, right? Why am I wrong? That's not a question. That's a statement with a question mark at the end of it. What is this? Is a question. Like, what is this? What's going on here? What's your son saying when he's biting? What if it doesn't matter what he's labeled with? What if it doesn't matter what the experts say? What if it doesn't matter what slot he's put in? Do you want him to keep biting? And if you don't want him to keep biting, what if you can ask a question like, what's it going to take to change this? Because I can tell you, if he keeps biting, somebody is going to hit him. Somebody is going to bite him back. Somebody is going to do whatever. The other thing is I would really like you all to refrain from telling each other what to do and what not to do. I will never do that. I will ask you questions. But any of you, if anybody ever says you have to do this or you can't do that, I'm going to actually delete the post, okay? This has got to be a safe place for people, for all of you to say, this is what's going on. Does anybody have any ideas? I need some help. And to do that from the space of being willing to change it. Like if you're not willing to change whatever it is that's going on in your world, then this probably isn't the right place for you to be. But if you're looking for something different, yes. So here's my go-to for you. Start asking questions. Okay, so here's like an example of a question. I'm going to give you two questions. One's going to be a question, and the other one's going to be a statement with a question mark at the end of it, okay? What do you want for dinner? Is that a question, or is that a statement with a question mark at the end of it? It's actually a statement with a question mark at the end of it, right? Because it presupposes A, that you're hungry, that they're hungry, B, that they're going to eat, and C, that it's going to be in the form of dinner. Are you hungry? That's a question. Do you have homework? That's a question. When are you going to get your homework done? That's a statement with a question mark at the end of it. When are you going to mow the grass? Statement with a question mark at the end of it, right? So start fooling around with it, right? When there's stuff going on, I get how hard it is, and the level of anxiety and craziness that occurs at the start of school every year is huge. And to ask, what is this, right? And you'll get a sense of it. Write in the comments stuff like your experiences with asking questions, stuff that's going on, and let's start a conversation about this, okay? All right, you guys. Thank you. Bye.